Here's what we're discussing on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for being here with us. And no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, as always, thank you for making today's show a part of your day because there are so many content options out there. We're always so appreciative that you decide to take time out of your day and stop by. Captains defend Nick Sirianni. They want him back as Eagles head coach in 2024. But will the Eagles move on anyway? Because Jeffrey Lurie not happy during the broadcast of that Eagles-Buccaneers wildcard game on Monday night. And is Fletcher Cox going to return? As well as Brandon Graham. We're dissecting all of this on a new show. Let's start off with topic number one, and that is Nick Sirianni. You look at his overall raw resume. What he's been able to do so far as the Eagles head coach, win a lot of games. Rookie season, after a really bumpy start, Bird started off 2-5. After that, ended the season strong. They changed their philosophy from being a pass-happy team to a run-heavy team. They went 9-8, made it to the wild card round, got spanked by the Buccaneers. But that was supposed to be and was the first year of a rebuild, and Sirianni had an above 500 record. Not bad. Made in-game and in-season adjustments that I thought were pretty good. In 2022, Eagles were terrific. Jalen Hurts was second in MVP voting. Eagles had an offense that was unconscious, explosive, and one of the best in the NFL. The defense under Jonathan Gannon was pretty solid. Eagles went 14-3, won the NFC Championship game over the Niners, made it to the Super Bowl, and should have won that football game. I'll never get over it. And in 2023, Eagles start off 10-1, and then they lose 6 of their last 7, including the playoff game, and they once again get ousted in the wild card round of the playoffs. There is good with Nick Sirianni. There is also some bad with Nick Sirianni. Let's start off on the good. He's won a lot of games. He's 34-17, and the Eagles have been one of the most successful teams in the NFL 3 straight years, and they've made it to the playoffs in 3 consecutive years. The Eagles are coming off a Super Bowl season. And what's funny is that if the Eagles were just bad from the jump, we would have chalked it up as a Super Bowl hangover, and I don't think that Nick Sirianni's job would have come into question. But because he fired his defensive coordinator halfway through the year and then the Eagles collapsed in epic fashion late, and they started off 10-1, then they went out in the wild card round, first team to ever start 10-1 and not win a playoff game, people are now calling for his neck. He has built a good culture, although he has to repair that a little bit. He is respected by players, as we're about to talk about. And look, I know that maybe Sean Desai and Brian Johnson were not good coordinator hires, but Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon were, and that's evidenced by the fact that Shane Steichen, bottom 5 roster with the Colts, almost made the playoffs. Went all the way up until week 18. And Jonathan Gannon and that Cardinals team, they played hard, and they look buttoned up. They look pretty damn good. So Sirianni does have the ability to make good hires and hire a good coaching staff. And if he does return, he's going to have to hire a new OC as well as a new DC. There's also some bad with Nick Sirianni. Eagles absolutely collapsed this year to epic levels. 6 of 7 losses to end the year. That's why Jeffrey Lurie looked disgusted. And we were all disgusted as Eagles fans. There is an issue that Nick Sirianni does not call plays because what does he do at an elite level? He's not a Sean McVay. He's not a Kyle Shanahan. He's not a Matt LaFleur. He's not one of these creative offensive minds. And the offense was a mess this year. The defense was even more of a mess. And at times, this can be good, this can be bad. Nick Sirianni can get too emotional. But some players have even said that sometimes when the coach gets out of line and starts acting up, then that rubs off on the team, and I think that's part of the reason why we saw some of the bad body language. But with how ugly it was at the end of the year, 2 captains really stood up for Sirianni during locker room clean-out day on Tuesday. Fletcher Cox was one of them, Jason Kelce was the other. Here's what Fletcher Cox said, and he actually looked pretty annoyed. Come on, man. What is there to talk about? This man is a winner. He's a winner of a head coach. Did we have some bumps this year? Yeah, but every team goes through it. But we don't look at firing a man who's won 10-plus games 2 years in a row and made the playoffs 3 years in a row. Have some respect. He's a good leader for this team, and he does a really good job. As for what Jason Kelce said, I love Nick. I think Nick's a great coach. I really do. Obviously, nobody was good enough this year. When you're that bad, it's a collective thing. I'll always have faith in Nick Sirianni. He does a lot of things structurally and organizationally that I think are really well done. Obviously, we have a lot of things to improve and fix the outcome of the offense and in general on this football team. So there, you did have Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce being honest. They really like Nick Sirianni. They're backing him. They think he's a really good coach, but they did admit there are some things that need to be fixed, and there were some bumps along the road. But what's concerning about this is that the players can say this all they want. What is the viewpoint from Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie? Because how do the Eagles fall apart and unravel at the seams on both sides of the football? They lose 6 of 7. They can't come up with answers. The offensive scheme is vanilla. The concepts are high school-like. There's no creativity. You still don't have any answers for the blitz. And in that Buccaneers game, the failure to tackle and the lack of effort was telling, and it looked like a team that gave up on their head coach. So did the players give up on him, and did the offensive system max out from 2022 to 2023? Because Sirianni has even said, when he was asked about this by Jeff McClain, we don't look necessarily at incorporating new plays, just honing in on what we do well. In hindsight, that was a mistake from the Eagles head coach. But will he admit that mistake, and will Jeffrey Lurie give him another year? What do you think? What should the Eagles do with Nick Sirianni? Type K for keep or type F for fire. Let us know right now down in the comment section. You look at what Jeffrey Lurie looked like on the ESPN broadcast on Monday night, and I've thrown this out there a couple of times. This looks like a mob boss who is very disgruntled and very upset that somebody screwed him over. And now, because of their failures, he has to whack somebody who he really, really likes. And Jeffrey Lurie, after the Eagles lost the Super Bowl in the owners' meetings, and that's not too long ago, less than a calendar year ago, really, really vouched for Nick Sirianni and said, we absolutely love what he brings to the table. But Jeffrey Lurie looked miserable on Monday. And when you run a business, when you run a football team in this case, and you're looking at a head coach whose team has given up on him, who had absolutely no answers, couldn't make adjustments, that's not all good. But at what point can the Eagles get continuity at head coach? This is a little bit of a Lurie and Howie Roseman problem. Doug Peterson, not here for long. 2016 to 2020. Chip Kelly, not here for long before that. And now you're looking at Nick Sirianni after 3 years. He might get the boot. Eagles are a very well-run organization, but after Andy Reid, they have not had a long-term head coach as the face of this franchise. It is the off-season, and if you want to get swagged up and support the show, get yourself a Real John shirt. Chatsports.com/RealJohn. Obviously, we have a lot of real ones who watch the show. This is the Philadelphia spin on that. Chatsports.com/RealJohn. Available in Kelly green as well as black. We're going to put that link down below for you down in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. Be a real one, be a real John, and support the show and support Philadelphia. What is the future of two Eagles legends? Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox. Jason Kelce unsure of what he's going to do, and during locker room cleanout day on Tuesday did not talk about his future. And he said on his podcast that you can't make emotional decisions after an emotional game. As for Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, who, like Jason Kelce, have been with this team for more than a decade, are they going to return in 2024? If it's up to Brandon Graham, he wants to come back for 1 year, and he wants to come back for a farewell tour. He said after that Buccaneers defeat that he wants to come back for one more season. And we're about to take a look at some Brandon Graham numbers. Certainly not the same player that he was in 2022 when he had a career high, 11 sacks coming off that torn Achilles. I think a lot of that is based on the defensive scheme because the Eagles sack numbers as a whole were down dramatically. Here's what BG, number 55, Eagles legend, had to say about coming back for one more year. It'll be my farewell tour next year. If the Eagles want to do it one more time, I would love to be here for another year because I know we got something special. I'll be done next year to get to year 15, by the way. Like I say, we're going to be better next year. I know Howie is already thinking about the offseason, what he's going to do, work his magic, see what he does, and this organization is going to get it right. Again, it's another player who's kind of back in this Nick Sirianni-led organization. And for BG in 2022, what a season it was for him. Top 5 and comeback player of the year voting because he only played 2 games the previous season after tearing that Achilles. 11 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 16 quarterback hits. This year, as he's 35 years old, the numbers did plummet. But against the Buccaneers, he was one of the few players who actually came to play. 3 sacks in the regular season, 4 tackles for loss, and 6 quarterback hits. As a rotational defensive end, I would bring him back. As for Fletcher Cox, I think he might demand a little bit more than Brandon Graham. He said during locker room cleanout day he has not thought about his future yet. Said he proved this year that he's still playing at a high level, and I agree with them. He's still a defensive tackle who can push the pocket, move the quarterback off his spot, and get home, and at the very least get quarterback pressures and quarterback hits. He just finished his 12th season, and he's 33 years old. In 2022, another really good season for Fletcher Cox, and that was one of the rebound seasons for him because a couple years leading up to 2022 just wasn't the same player, and in 2023, numbers very, very similar. Sacks down by 2, tackles for loss down by 4, but the quarterback hits were up by 3. If you had to bring one of these legendary Eagles back, who are you going with? Number 91, Fletcher Cox type FC, or are you going with number 55, Brandon Graham type BG?